and each day would be a year being fulfilled. So it actually meant 2,520 years. In other words, God would then withhold these promises from Israel. And remember, they were made now to Israel. Jacob, the dying Jacob, had said, "Let my name be named on them." They were made to Israel. They could have had them in their lifetime, but they would be withheld for 2,520 years. But then God would deliver them, the promises, because he had promised Abraham unconditionally. Now that 2,520 years, beginning with 721 BC, brought us down to the year 1800 AD, not too far back from our time. And so the promises were taken away from them. Now, the dying Jacob had set Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. And he had said that Manasseh would become a great nation. And I think you could assume from that the greatest nation on earth. But Ephraim would become greater and become a commonwealth, or a group of nations. And today it's been called a commonwealth of a number of different nations. And so we trace the history right down to the place where different tribes settled in Western Europe. For example, I think we have proof that the French, especially the northern French, are descended from the tribe of Reuben. Others in Western Europe are from other tribes, of the 10 tribes. And they were called the lost 10 tribes. When they lost the identifying sign, the Sabbath, they lost their own identity. They lost their language. They lost all idea of their roots and who they are. That's why we don't know who we are today. Because the prophecy was of Ephraim that she would lose her first colony and she would be a colonizing nation. The first colony that she lost was the 13 colonies that became the United States of America. Other colonies came later: Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and even to some extent South Africa. And the promises that God made to Abraham have been fulfilled in Israel, but they never were fulfilled in the Jews. And that's something that the world has never quite understood. Now, I don't have time to give you all of that in this program. I would need about 4 or 5 full-hour programs to really give you the details, but I will give you the details in the book, and we've sent out, I don't know, I'd have to check to find how many, but I'm sure it's many more than 1 million copies already. We've been sending this out for the last 50 years. A booklet, The United States and Britain in Prophecy. Where are our roots? Where did we come from? What does the Bible say about the United States? Where are we mentioned in the Bible? This explains it. This will go into detail. This will give you many facts I haven't had time to give you on this program. It's the most astounding thing I ever discovered, and I think that you will find it the most astonishing thing you ever saw in the Bible. It is a proof of the authenticity of the Bible. It is a proof of the very existence of God. It's an absolute proof. Now, at the same time, I'd like to send you also a booklet, Does God Exist? Does God exist? Can you prove the existence of God? Most people say, "Oh, I believe in God." Well, you believe in God. Can you prove it? Why don't you get the proof and be sure? If anyone ever questions you, you'll be able to give him an answer. Now, those 2 booklets, if you will wish to write in for them or call in by telephone, that's the quickest way. And there is no charge. And there's no request for money, and there is not going to be any. We don't beg for money over the air. I'm sure you've noticed that. Now, also, you may have a full year's subscription to the finest, the greatest magazine on the face of the earth, and certainly one of the largest in circulation, The Plain Truth. Here's a recent issue of The Plain Truth. with a cover story, "Youth should protest, but how?" With the leading article is a personal, like an editorial from me, mystery of the ages. Here's another article, United Nations at 40. Another article, The Love That Conquers Fear and Depression. It's one of the greatest problems that we all have today in this world. And here's an article that will be very, very helpful that I think you need, and you need to read. Here's another one, Children of the Inner City, What's the Solution? Children of the inner city. That's getting to be one of the great problems in the United States and the major cities of Europe. And as a matter of fact, it's coming even to be a problem in nations like Japan. Children of the inner city. Another article, Youth should protest. Now that's the cover story, but how? How? Another article, A View from Down Under. That has to do with Australia and things that you need to know about that continent down under. There's no magazine like The Plain Truth. It is a news magazine. It goes into today's news, but more than that, it doesn't report the news. It explains the news. And you may have a year's subscription, no subscription price whatsoever. Just send your request to me, Herbert W. Armstrong at Pasadena, California. And if you write, the zip code is 91123. But why don't you just go to the telephone right now and call this toll-free number, 800, then 423-4444. It's an easy number to remember, but jot it down. 800, then 423-4444. So, until next time, Herbert W. Armstrong, goodbye, friends.
For the free literature offered on this program, write Herbert W. Armstrong, Pasadena, California, 91123. In Canada, Box 44, Vancouver, BC. Or in the continental United States, including Hawaii, you may call this toll-free number, 1-800-423-4444.